Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Keenan.
Heidi likes that Thunderbird.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a brotherhood of evil prickly pears.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here this week to discuss yet another, can you believe it, yet another comic book television program. Man, you swing a stick and you're bound to find, at least 15 of these things these days, man. Holy cow. But one of the fewer that you find out there are the Marvel ones, and we have a Marvel one today coming to us not from Disney, but from Fox. We're going to be discussing the first two episodes of The Gifted, which, even though they clearly don't announce anything anywhere, is kind of their X-Men, show, if you will.
Oh, boy, they want to keep that a secret, too.
It's kind of weird, right? And we'll talk about whether or not that works for them and if maybe they should have gone a little bit, in a different way. But we'll figure all that kind of good stuff out. But we do want to welcome everybody to the show. We do want to say thank you to everyone who drops down to the iTunes and gives us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And, of course, everyone that supports us over there at patreon.com/HMP. You all have come in month after month, and the gloriousness that is there is always there. And we appreciate every single one of you guys. If you'd like to get the pre- and post-show for this program and, maybe some special things every now and then, why don't you check that out, man? We got a couple different levels, and you, of course, every single month you get to vote for a movie or television program that we end up watching. And the funny thing is coming up, you guys are actually going to get, I think, 2 in a row, if memory serves, because the way that this kind of schedule works out in like late November and early December, we've got to do like our end of the year show and Star Wars and things like that. So we're doing the Patreon movie early in December, so we'll have one in late November and early December. So you guys will get a lot of different choices. Or maybe let's do this now. Do you guys want to do like a runoff and just have the secondary vote get that one, or do we want to do 2 different votes altogether? What do you think?
Oh, that's a tough one. What do you think, Sean?
I think we should have 2 votes.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right.
That was a spot-on impression.
I've been working on it for hours.
Looking in the mirror, just going, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. Hey, everybody. No, what? Keep going.
You sure nailed me, Bruce. You got it.
Fantastic.
That's how I sound.
I'm sorry, wrong number.
Odd prank phone
Next week
call
I'll break out my Adam impression.
Oh. He's just surly.
Hey there, big fella. My name's Adam.
Master of voices, Bruce Leslie.
we wonder why he doesn't do more of them on the show. People keep asking. They're just like, boy, can Bruce do another impression, please? Knock it out for us. We just, it's like Rich Little's in the audience. I don't know what's going on.
Oddly, I don't do a good Rich Little impersonation.
All the kids are going, who's Rich Little?
Some Fred Travalina.
Oh, it's Old Man Podcast in here today, everybody.
You are not wrong.
Oh.
I'm about to pull a reference in a little bit here where it's like, wow, that's some old man radio.
I was flipping through the television. I swear, I don't know why I stopped on it, but it was like a 30-minute infomercial for a Red Skelton DVD. Man,
you should get that. He's good.
It honestly, some of it didn't look half bad. Some of it looked awful, mind you. But some of it was just like, well, I don't know. But then when you saw it was like 5 payments of $20, you're just like, you're out of your mind.
Now, man, as of like 10 years ago, not all that long ago, Soupy Sales was still doing live shows in Huntington.
Oh, my God.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he's from Huntington, so, he would do the Huntington Ha Ha once a year.
Well, it's like the old, Chuck Berry was, well into his 80s and stuff and still doing shows up at Blueberry Hill or wherever it was in Chicago there forever. So
Chuck Berry?
Mm-hmm.
He had to have an excuse to install those cameras in the bathrooms, man.
That's right.
How dare you speak ill of the Godfather of rock and roll? It's not that it's not untrue, but the man's gone. Give 5 minutes.
Yeah, man, since Soupy Sales passed away, Huntington's most famous celebrity is now the guy that does the voice of the Chucky doll.
Oh, Steven Dorff. Is he from
No.
Huntington?
No, it's not Steven Dorff.
Or no, wait, no, oh gosh,
It's Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif.
That's it. He's a Marshall graduate like myself.
My brain, I just had the D in my head. My brain went kind of funky.
Yeah, Steven Dorff was from Blade, right?
That's right. That's the other guy who's, but one's career's really dropped off, and the other one's at least continuing to do movies. I'm not gonna lie to you, kids. The last 2 Chucky movies actually pretty decent. So
hey, I reviewed the most recent Chucky movie on Chubby Wizard. If people want to hear it, it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah, so check it out. Speaking of things we should check out, we checked out the first 2 episodes of The Gifted to see if it is worth your time, because we don't know if it's worth our time until we watch it. But let's find out. Let's take a listen to the trailer for The Gifted.
Are you still going to the dance tonight? Want me to show you some of my moves?
Oh, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, look who's here.
Why didn't you tell me?
I'm so sorry.
How do you think we got out of that ship? You too.
Did you hear about the mutant incident? Those are my kids.
The X-Men, the Brotherhood, we don't even know if they exist anymore.
And with the Sentinel services,
We have to go now.
Stay out of sight.
There is nothing more important to me than my family.
That was when I ruled the world.
All right, that was a trailer for The Gifted. We'll be reviewing the first 2 episodes this week. Here's the IMDb plotline. In a world where mutated humans are treated with distrust and fear, an institute for mutants battles to achieve a peaceful coexistence with humanity. They left a letter out there. Starring Emma Dumont, Jermaine Rivers, Stephen Moyer, Amy Acker, Sean Teal, Natalie Island Lind. Listen, people got to start getting names like Smith again. You know what I'm saying? Corey Bell, see, that's an easy name. Jamie Chung, that's an easy name. But instead of me mispronouncing names more and more and more, which is I don't know what we call my MO around here. Let's get to the real good stuff, shall we?
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
What you got for us this week, Bruce?
Well, famously, I never mispronounce anything, so we're in smooth sailing here.
That's true.
Now, we've talked about a lot of X-Men stuff over the years, but luckily, there are no X-Men in this show. Well, there sort of are, but they don't self-identify as X-Men. There's no Xavier Academy at this point. No Xavier, no Wolverine, no Nightcrawler, no Cyclops. There's not even Jubilee. And if there's a property where Jubilee could be a star brother, it's this one. Now, oddly enough, we do get Thunderbird. Thunderbird was briefly a member of the X-Men for like 3 issues or something. He's an Apache and possesses superhuman athletic ability. I always figured he was inspired by Jim Thorpe. Now, you may wonder why Thunderbird didn't stick around very long. Well, this is what his co-creator, Dave Cockrum, had to say. We created him as an obnoxious loudmouth, and we already had an obnoxious loudmouth in Wolverine. So one of us decided to kill him off after all, just for shock value. Now, I have some good news for Thunderbird. Wolverine died in Logan, so now Thunderbird can live on in this odd mutant verse that Fox is giving us. I think that's a sweet deal, guys. Get rid of that hack Hugh Jackman and his so-called Wolverine, and in this place, we get Blair Redford for perpetuity. Sure, Jackman won a Tony. He can do action, comedy, and musicals with equal acumen, but Blair Redford worked for several summers in Georgia's Renaissance Festival, performing and doing stunts and creating a pirate character named Rusty Compass, and that is 100% true. So take that, Jackman. Redford is also known for his television roles such as Scotty Granger on The Young and the Restless, Miguel Lopez Fitzgerald on Passions, and Jackman was never able to land one of those sweet soap opera gigs. Now, Buddy TV ranked Blair Redford number 17 on its list of TV sexiest men in 2011. I bet Hugh Jackman's never been on any kind of sexy man list. Now, Blair Redford even knows how to play tennis. Now, how about that, guys? A person who knows how to play tennis is a rare commodity. Personally, I stick to badminton, but I have respect for all my racket sports playing brethren. Blair Redford is 34 years old and unmarried. I know a lot of guys who wish they could say that. Heck, if I was 34 years old and not married, I probably wouldn't be recording this podcast right now. I'd be at the mall blowing my entire paycheck on airbrush t-shirts and bulk candy purchases. Ah, the bachelor life. How I miss it sometimes. Anyway, back to Thunderbird, a.k.a. Johnny Proudstar. John Proudstar was born into an Apache tribe on a reservation in Camp Verde, Arizona. As a teenager, Proudstar discovered he possessed the mutant abilities of superhuman senses, strength, speed, stamina, and sturdiness. Now, how's that for a mutant power? Sturdiness. That's something I would use to describe particularly well-built bunk beds, but not necessarily a superhero. It's a shelf. It's a cabinet. No, it's Sturdy Man. He was recruited by Professor Charles Xavier to join his third group of X-Men. During the weeks of training which followed, the ill-tempered and individualistic Thunderbird often found himself going head-to-head with the X-Men leader, Cyclops. Be careful, though, Cyclops. You don't want him getting all sturdy on you. Now, the new team's second mission took them to Valhalla Base, Colorado, to combat Count Nefaria and the Ani-Men. When Nefaria attempted to make his escape in a jet plane, Proudstar leapt on board, disregarding Professor X's orders to jump to safety. Thunderbird hammered at it with his bare fists. The plane exploded, killing Proudstar. And I've got to admit, I've been a little rough on Thunderbird, but I have to hand it to the fellow. That's a pretty awesome way to go out, pounding on a jet with your sturdy hands. Thunderbird was replaced by his brother Warpath, James Proudstar, who had similar powers, although to a much greater degree. So it's fair to say he was quite sturdy. So that's it. This week's Comic Book Connection is all about the second sturdiest mutant, Thunderbird.
Isn't James Proudstar part of the X-Force? Am I right?
Probably.
That's where he came from, I believe.
Yeah. It's for a long time, I hate to admit this, but it took me a while to realize that Thunderbird didn't just change his name to Warpath. Because they kind of look alike. Their costumes are a little similar and similar powers. Right. So it was just weird that you kill off Thunderbird to bring in Warpath when you could have just kept Thunderbird all along. It's not like it's real life where they had a contract dispute with Bo and Luke and had to bring in Coy and Vance or something.
That comes up to an alarming degree on this show.
What can I say, man? I know my Duke boys.
Yeah, and Polaris is in this also. And those are the two I recognize.
And Blink. Blink is...
Blink. Yeah.
And I really recognize Blink mostly from her character's role in Age of Apocalypse, the movie.
Oh, so that's the same character.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I do know that this is, quote, in continuity, end quote, this show, which I was surprised to hear.
Man, I don't know. First
That's
off,
what they're claiming. That's what they're claiming.
The X-Men movies aren't exactly in continuity, No. So to say this show's in continuity with the movies would imply that the movies were in continuity with one another. So I just say let her rip,
Well, let's pretend that X-Men 3 didn't happen.
Yeah, just make a good movie.
It's like my series of finger paintings when I was a kid were all in continuity.
I was about to say, what are you opening up a gallery and just being like, this is part of the finger painting collection? If you'll walk
closely, you'll notice there's blue in all of them.
This is the Leslie finger paint period.
Blue is the cheapest color.
So you want to kind of just dive into this thing, or what do you want to do?
Sure.
Yeah, man. I don't know what else to do but dive into it.
Right. Okay. So you guys know how much I enjoyed the TV show Legion. I love Legion. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite TV properties.
We all exists. Very much enjoyed. I think we did 2 episodes and kind of halves them. And I think you and I were bigger fans. And Bruce, you finally came around a little bit more towards the end. Yeah,
I came around by the end for sure. And it was Legion that got me excited. Maybe this would be cool. But it also became quite apparent that no one who worked on Legion works on this, as far as I can tell.
Well, the difference is that Legion takes huge swings, they take huge, massive risks on that show. It's one of the reasons why I liked it so much is that, what they're doing all the time isn't great, but at least they're trying something and they're going for an aesthetic, their own their own little pocket universe in the X-Men world, and it's great, and I love it, and it is coming back, right? Am I right on that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And I don't know if FX being like the sort of spin-off cable channel, whereas Fox is broadcast, it would be weird to me to hear that FX had a bigger budget, but I think they made their budget look bigger by spending it on talent and the art department rather than sci-fi effects and CGI and stuff.
And do remember, we're looking at, I believe, an 8-episode versus 13-episode, if memory serves, between the two. So this one will have more episodes to it on account of, that's just kind of how more proper network works.
And I don't know, man. I don't know how much they pay the actors on this versus how much they pay the actors on Legion. But I would suspect if you take out the salary of the actors, if you look at the budget per episode, even with 13, it's probably bigger on this and doesn't look near as good to me.
No, it doesn't. The other thing about this show is that they're trying to go down the middle. They're not taking big chances. They want to make you believe. They want the comic book fans to be happy, but they also are hiding the comic book aspect to the show. And when you do that, you come up with the thing I hate most, and I say it all the time on this show. You come up with a mediocre property, and that is what this show is. It is completely mediocre to the point where I always forget the name of the show. The Gifted is not something where you remember that name.
Horrible branding.
And even if they couldn't capture the magic of Legion, they could at least just say, you know what, we're just going to go bat poop crazy like Gotham. But they don't do either. They don't give us what I like about Legion. And, Gotham is not a good show, but I love watching it just because it is so ridiculous. I know I'm going to see something that I'm not expecting and enjoy every episode. This just felt like kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with a different cast.
It is a bit of that, although Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I can't believe I'm saying this,
it's gotten much better.
That's true. It has gotten actually to the point where it's good.
So I'll say like season 2 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is what I feel like watching this.
Yes. And they should rename The Gifted. They should just rename the show We've Gotta Go, because they say that no less than 40 times in the 2 episodes I watched. We've got to go. We've got to go. It happens over and over and over. And, it's repetitive. It's boring at times. It's quiet. Then it gets really, really loud. It's not.
Well, let's talk about this name, The Gifted. What do you think is the story behind that? I mean, I'm going to have to assume that whatever agreement they had to license this show took a lot of things off the table. Like, for example, I'm sure that it's in black and white that they cannot have Wolverine in this show somehow.
Sure.
Yeah, and sure. I'm also certain that it says you cannot call the show X-Men. Because I think if you could call a show X-Men, you would. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep.
It's like with Gotham. They call it Gotham because I'm sure they were banned from calling it Young Batman. You know what I mean?
The Young Batman Chronicles, I've been pushing for it since day one, but no one wants to hear.
But so I imagine that they were told they can't use X-Men, but there have to be better names than The Gifted.
They must have said no X anything, because the only time that you really, like, even in the first, like, promos and stuff, they didn't even, like, dot the I with the X like they do later on. It's just like they were not in, like, at least with, like, Legion, there's, like, they throw in the X and stuff and they try to make it, at least kind of sing to you a little bit that it's got some X-Men origins in it. But this, it seems like they're almost trying to hide it, which I think is a bad move.
And they probably can't use any name of any existing team, so they had to come up with The Gifted. I wonder if they were told they couldn't even use mutants in the title, because I know they couldn't call it New Mutants, they couldn't call it X-Men, X-Force, they couldn't call it X-Factor, but if they could at least call it like
Extraordinary
the Mutant
or
Front.
something.
Like if they called it the Mutant Front, I think that would help it better than The Gifted. Man, the Gifted almost makes me think it's going to have some kind of hokey moral to every episode or something. I'm almost expecting a touch of that Michael Landon Walking on a Road to Heaven show here. or the Della Reese one where she making out with an angel. What was that called?
You got it. You nailed it. Making out with an angel and Walking the Road to Heaven. Those are the 2 names of those shows.
Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to do every episode was make out with Della Reese.
And I was too busy watching
Gifted,
Murder, She Wrote.
The Gifted is a lazy title, you know, and you have the name right there in the show because they're called the Mutant Underground, are they not on the show?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
just call it that.
I said Mutant Front. I meant Mutant Underground.
Yeah, just call it that, man. That's a lot better name than the Gifted.
Or call it the Brotherhood of Morally Ambiguous Mutants instead of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
There's a weird thing happening with this show also, where if you watch it the way I did on streaming, you see the names of the episodes, and the episodes are all, you know, like have the X capitalized in every one of the episodes.
Right.
So it's hidden in plain sight that they're X-Men, but it is hidden, you know, and it's just so weird to me. And every step, every big major idea in this show is wrong-headed, in my opinion.
And also something that bugs me is they reference that the X-Men aren't around anymore. Like they do make that reference that the X-Men and the Brotherhood aren't here anymore, but they don't explain what happened to them. And I think that could even make this show interesting as if it was like, let's say the X-Men have disappeared and these guys are trying to find them. And we know that they'll never be able to find them on account of the agreements here. But still, you know, that would be kind of cool. They could find something to make this work for me better than whatever it is.
Well, they need what the show desperately needs, and only watching 2 episodes, I don't know if this has happened yet because I know they're on episode 5 now, I think, is that they need a big bad, and they need a really good one. You know, I think that that's probably what saved you, Bruce, with Legion, is that the big bad on Legion is great.
Oh, he is, man. I got to agree with that.
And I think that if they have a really good big bad on this show, it's going to change everything. And whether that's, you know, someone that's barely used, like your Cameron Hodge or something like that, like that's the way to go with this show.
What's the big bad equivalent of Thunderbird? I'm trying to think of a bad guy that was so for 3 issues and then disappeared and was replaced by a twin, essentially. That's a hard one. That was maybe a little too specific.
Well, I think
they can bring in Toad as the big bad.
There you go. You know, the reason why I picked Cameron Hodge specifically is that he is the linchpin in the Extinction Agenda, which to me is still the best X-Men crossover book of all time. And they don't use him. You know, that's a character that we have not seen, at least as far as I know, we haven't seen in 20 years.
Well, something that could save this series and would blow my mind is if, like in the season finale, we found out that the reason the X-Men and Brotherhood were gone is because Onslaught has appeared, and Onslaught's going to be their big bad for season 2. That would get me interested.
That would keep me interested as well. I just want to see something. Like, show me something, man. You know.
Oh, you weren't turned on by those spider robot versions of Sentinels?
No, where they're apologizing for the Sentinel program.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of that. You know, we live in an age now where Thor Ragnarok just leans into how goofy and crazy these universes are, and then it's followed up by the Gifted. You know, like that's not. Man, you're doing it wrong.
This same network, just a couple of weeks ago, gave us an episode of Gotham where Solomon Grundy climbs out of a swamp. He finds a camp of Irish hobos who are still listening to music on a wax cylinder. And then in the same episode, I see Gordon use a cell phone. So we've got wax cylinder Victrolas and Irish hobo camps by the swamp and cell phones in the same universe. Why can't they give me something goofy or crazy or interesting in this show?
What are you saying, bro? You don't listen to stuff on the wax cylinders no more? I'm sorry. You got to figure out how music is really supposed to be listened to, Bruce.
Man, you know, if you don't hear the FDR fireside chats on a wax cylinder, you just haven't listened to them.
But you can't sit too close to the fire.
I really do at some point want to stand around a barrel fire that's a bucket list thing for me right now. I don't want to be homeless when I'm doing it, mind you, but I'd like to stand around a barrel fire, man.
Hey, I'm so old school. I just like to read the sheet music and hear the music in my head.
It's better also if you have like a doo-wop group around you, possibly by a famous actor's brother is kind of running that group. You never know,
man. Or just get a player piano in the backseat of your car.
Ooh, no one explored the player piano in the back of a vehicle. I'm a little ashamed that that's not a thing. That would have been better.
There's nothing like driving to some good ragtime sounds.
How much better would that have made Five Easy Pieces if the piano was a player piano and it was just playing as they were driving? That would have been amazing. Jack Nicholson just rolling up some old ragtime music and they just driving down the road.
What a weird pull from you, Portrais. That is a weird pull. 5 Easy Pieces.
So, out of the real mutants that they do use, because they create a whole lot of new folks here, and I've already talked pretty extensively about Thunderbird, and I have to feel like they were given a list of 100 people they couldn't use, and Thunderbird was like sort of close to being Warpath. No, Thunderbird. I'm already getting
it's Thunderbird. It's Thunderbird.
And I imagine Thunderbird was like one of the few people that had actually been a main team X-Men character, even if it was only for a couple of issues that they could use. And then they're like, well, Blink isn't on the banned list, and Blink was in one of the X-Men movies, so we'll throw her in there. And then somebody said, you know what? I think they forgot that Polaris is even a thing, so we'll put her in here. And then a bunch of original, fairly boring mutants. I mean, it's hard to come up with an original mutant because there are about 7,000 of them, so there's no imaginable power that you couldn't potentially say they're infringing on an existing mutant that they're not allowed to use, you know?
Well, little glass orbs appear from your hands is new. We haven't seen that before.
Yeah, but I feel like there's going to be an Inhuman that does that soon.
So yeah, what is there anything that we like? I'm trying to come up with something. I know that I like that Sharon Gless is in this show. She is a welcomed addition to this show.
I like the guy from True Blood.
I've never watched True Blood, so I don't know who that is.
I think it's the guy that plays Strucker, Reed Strucker, and he's done other stuff I've watched. He's
all you can sit here and say, like, yeah, if you've seen True Blood, all you can see coming out of this dude's face the entire time is "Suck is mine," just in this like
Suck it.
It's a little much.
He could pronounce. Actually, he made it sound more like "sucky," but anyway, that's him. And he's like what, Australian or English or something?
I think maybe he's English. I don't know. Let's find out.
But I kind of liked him in the first episode. I think it would have been more interesting if they had just done what you feel like they wanted to do and back down from, which is make him part of Sentinel Services, and he finds out his own family of mutants, instead of this prosecuting attorney who prosecutes mutants, but he's not exactly in Sentinel Services. I think it's a more interesting story if he's like maybe the second in command of Sentinel Services or something like that.
Oh, he's from Brentwood. No, Brentwood, Essex, so UK, yes.
That's in Spain, right?
That's in Spain. By the way, Stephen Moyer, update your IMDb profile, man. Your picture on here is just awful. It's not good.
Oh,
it doesn't look like it doesn't look like him like at all. He's got like it's almost like an 80s type haircut. It's just like, when did you take this? Get it fixed.
Also, I found it a little bit interesting when we see Polaris in prison. You know, I thought there's some potential for some cool, prison dynamics are kind of easy to do. If you're not a great writer, there's a lot of stuff you can kind of rip off or have thinly veiled retellings of other plots. I thought they could get kind of interesting with her in prison, but it seems like it didn't go anywhere.
I mean, we are 2 episodes.
Yeah, they have the dye wash out of her hair, so she has the green hair for real, and whatever.
Is that how hair dye works? Like, does it just wash out? I would imagine
it can. Yeah.
I just kind of thought hair dye like lasted a little bit longer.
No, I mean if you got
depends
like
on the dye you're using.
Yeah, you can get real crummy stuff that'll go out soon, but I mean one would think that.
Because, man, that was like somebody poured oil down her back. It wasn't like it was kind of fading slowly over a couple of washes.
It's like the cheap Halloween kind that you just spray in with a can.
Yeah. Hope she didn't pay $200 for that at the beauty shop.
No, that's
or the Mutant Beauty Shop or whatever.
The Mutant Beauty Shop. That's what.
See, they could have.
Specific.
They could create a new mutant that can change people's hair color. Right there. I just finally came up with an original mutant they could have used.
How long before we see Guido on this show?
Guido Sarducci?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. The priest from Saturday Night Live in the 80s?
No, a strong man.
Okay.
Strong Guido.
Oh, that's right. The character's name is Guido.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
His name's Guido.
Giant body, tiny little head.
I think he's on the cannot use list.
That's hilarious if they can't.
That seems like a character that would be right up Bruce's alley, though, doesn't it? Weird, got a little hair thing.
They've got him penciled in for season 2 of Legion, from what I understand.
He'd fit in on that show.
I hope so. He's crazy. That's a nutty character. He fits right in there, and that's what's missing from this. One of the things, again. If I'm not having fun watching your show, you're doing it wrong. And there is nothing fun about this show. It's dour. It's very navel gazing. There's a lot of that happening on the show. There's a lot of I hate my powers. There's all of that stuff. We've seen this to death. Like let's do something different. And I looked up online to see what the reviews were for this, and it seems to be 50-50 with people who really like it and people who are like us, where it's like, this is mediocre.
And I can enjoy a bad show if the show knows what it is and embraces that it's bad. I've already referenced Gotham a lot, and I'll be honest, a lot of what I like on the CW is because they know, what we do doesn't matter that much, so let's just do whatever the heck pops into our head this week. In this show, I don't know, man. It's like they think they're doing something special like Legion, and they're really giving us more like Inhumans here.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, look, you better be careful of the way you talk to me. I'll go back to Black Lightning. That's an inside joke, everybody. Sorry.
Oh, man. But, anyway, I bet Black Lightning will be better than this show.
I think Black Lightning knows what it is. Will know what it is. The other problem that I have with the show is that there's they have no money, right? That's the whole thing, is that they have no money. Yet they're squatting in this really awesome warehouse with lights and running water, and
they're in Atlanta too. So man, maybe you should look for a squat down there.
Well, there's plenty of places you can squat here for sure, but nothing that awesome.
Man, and like the whole plot of episode 2, like you've got mutants, you've got Sentinels hunting mutants, you've got this whole government versus the underground trying to build like a pipeline to help people escape to Mexico or whatever. And episode 2 is all about breaking into an emergency room and stealing some medicine. And that seems like a really, that's like in the old days when I used to wonder why, like the old George Reeves black and white Superman, like why is Superman trying to stop a pickpocket? Like that seems like a total misuse of resources to me.
Well, not only that, but it harkens back to Suicide Squad from earlier this year. That's this year, right? Suicide Squad? Last year?
Last year.
I don't even remember
February
anymore.
last year, I think.
Last year. So it harkens back to that where, so your biggest problem that you have to deal with is self-imposed because it's someone on your team that's causing all this problem. And, that's what the entire second episode is. We've got to take care of this thing that we have created ourselves.
And it totally speaks to me of uninspired writing. And it's pretty bad when you're out of ideas by episode 2.
Yeah. Well, I think... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, most shows don't say, okay, what are we going to write about? I don't know. How about they steal some medicine? Like, that's like a season 8 kind of problem, you don't start getting into bottle episodes on episode 2, and you don't get into, how about this is the one where, I don't know, they bet who can go the longest without watching TV. Like you don't do that on episode 2, especially not on this show. Stealing medicine is way below what these guys should be concerned with.
And it feels like there's going to be the plot device where someone is always captured, and they're just going to rotate that. Who is the person who was captured?
Yeah. And you know, they're I don't know. You've got this whole thing where we're trying to, in episode 2 in particular, which way is Reed going to go? Is Reed Strucker, who is not at all like Baron Strucker, not at all like Stryker from the comics. He's totally a different guy. But is he going to go on the side of the mutants? Is he going to turn them in for the benefit of his own family? You know, they're expecting us to think which way is he going to go, but we know which way he's going to go. I mean, this show is not that complicated of a show. We know where this is going. And as far as going into robbing an emergency room, because they're not trying to get, well, man, I don't want to get into the medical side of things, but they're not trying to get narcotics. They're not trying to get something that's actually locked up or under any kind of special surveillance, you know? And then on top of it, in the show, they mention a Pyxis by name, which is weird because that's like a proprietary name of a medicine. Like, is that product placement? Is the Pyxis company like paying for that? But it also doesn't work where like just any nurse can go into any hospital and use their Pyxis. You know, it's kind of like logging in on your computer at work. You know, everybody's got their own login, and you can't, just because you can log in on a computer at the Home Depot in Charlotte doesn't mean you can log in to a computer in the Home Depot in San Francisco, for example.
But boy, do you want to try.
Yeah, the whole like breaking into the ER to steal, what was it, sodium bicarbonate? I mean, it was honestly something that a cleverer show would say she could figure out how to make from stuff at the grocery store rather than the whole plot where you're trying to rob an ER, which I got to tell you, man, it's not that hard. If that's really what they wanted to do, I'm pretty sure 2 mutants could rob any ER they wanted as long as they weren't going after narcotics.
Well, why don't you have a consultant for that also? You know, it's not like this show doesn't have any money. Just hire a consultant for a day. Hey, if we run into this problem, what do we get? Hey, if we run into this problem, what do we need? It's very easy.
Yeah, and you know what? I would even say, if not only could you hire a consultant, but it's not that hard. Like, if somebody has a doctor's appointment and you work on the show, you could probably just ask the nurse checking your blood pressure, and she'd explain how it works to you. And then keep an eye on you because she thinks you're going to steal medicine from the ER.
Why do you have a dictaphone,
you know what I mean?
on you?
You could probably do a Google search and get a better idea of this.
So, Bruce, do you have the same problem that I do when you're watching television? For me, like, I can't watch things like I was never able to watch Ballers, the TV show Ballers, because it's too much like the industry for me, and the kind of thing I have to run into constantly. And the same thing with that Marky Mark show, the Mark Wahlberg show, that they made a movie out of. Entourage. Like, I can't watch that show either because it's too much like work to me. So I'm wondering, when you watch a show like this, where there was so much time dedicated to being in that hospital, are you immediately turned off by it because they're in a hospital, or are you trying to see where the problems are?
Man, I try to push myself to just go with it, and sometimes I'm better at it than others. The problem is when they make the plot hinge, like House was the one I couldn't watch, because House, the whole plot would hinge on this rare diagnosis and its treatment, and they obviously knew almost nothing about either the diagnosis or the treatment. You know, so House would really bug me. It'd be like it'd be like if you were a police detective and you're watching one of these police procedurals where it all comes down to whether or not somebody can find the right key for their handcuffs to whether they end up the plot. I mean, it's just like stupid stuff that would sometimes come down on House. ER was such a soap opera that I could go with it, even though, I mean, the medicine wasn't great there. One, and I'm not the only one to point this out, I'm sure you've heard this before, but really the best representation, the most accurate, the one that really you could tell had a good medical advisor on set. No, man, it was Scrubs. Scrubs is nearly flawless.
Huh.
And, you know, the character JD was based on a real physician that was friends with the guy that created the show, and that guy was on set for almost every episode, and it shows, man. It ran flawlessly from a medical side of things. And
that's interesting.
And, you know, I've heard interviews with the creators of Scrubs where they say every doctor they talk to tells them that Scrubs is the most accurate medical show they've ever seen, and it makes them both proud and extremely frightened at the same time. But it's pretty spot on, man, with the medical stuff.
This is why I can't watch Boogie Nights.
It's It's ridiculous.
Oh man, you and Mark Wahlberg, neither of you can watch it.
I can't do it anymore. It's not good. The Lord doesn't like it. Okay. I've been mysteriously quiet. I like this show.
Well, tell us, man. Jump in here. Defend it.
I don't know. It's like,
yeah, man.
And that's the tough part. Is like, I don't know. I don't know at this point. And honestly,
okay, hold on. Slow down. First off, Adam.
Okay.
Have you seen either of the episodes completely free of the influence of any substances?
Yes.
Okay, good, because you can like a lot of stuff in some
this is true.
states of mind that you're known to dip into.
Every now and then, but no, not for a while. So I'm good. So no.
Well, Adam, let's break it down. So why do you like it? Because for me, there's almost nothing to recommend this show. So I mean, do you like the acting on the show?
I think the acting is decent. The big thing to me is that it doesn't seem like it's not obviously top of the top as far as like production, everything goes, but it's not like, sorry, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., sorry, Dr. Dan Do, I know you're still listening to the show. But it's not like first season Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where everything just kind of looks like a cardboard set. There's enough in there that it makes me, I think it's just shy of FX worthy for Legion and everything. It's not super great. It doesn't have quite the artistic bent that does. It's a little bit more straightforward network television, but there's enough in here to kind of trail me along. Go ahead.
I know that you're on a train here, and I don't mean to derail it, but look, man, the people who make Legion, like the production designer on that show has a true, honest to God vision of what they're going for. Like the artistic integrity of that show is amazing. They had ideas, they had thoughts, and like I said at the beginning of the show, at least sometimes it doesn't work, but at least they're going for something. Whereas something on The Gifted, where you have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle level, hey, this is our secret lair. I mean, come on, man. Like the production design on The Gifted is awful. It is uninspired. It is let's look at reference photos. It's garbage.
But by and large, right now though, that's where they're supposed to be. Is very like outside of like one or two places, very common, very everyday sort of things. Where we were with Legion, we were in the mental institution that never existed on the face of planet Earth. It was a great comic book, sort of thing. And here we're delving a little bit more, and maybe it expands. I don't know. But I think, to me, enough of it is given to where what we're doing now in television, especially in more cases like this, and I forget, my brain's kind of blanking. But we're getting to more of a straight serialization of television, where it's not just here's an episode. This is more Lost than like CSI, right?
Sure, I agree.
Man.
So
that's still kind of a bold statement.
I just mean from a storytelling aspect, just from like how the structure works.
Yeah, I mean the structure of the show certainly. If you come into this show on episode 3, you can probably pick it up like you could pick up Uncanny X-Men 152, and you pick it up and you're like, oh, a bunch of stuff happened before this, but I'm still following it. That's probably the way that this show works as well. I wouldn't know because that's not how I'm watching it, but I'm going to guess that's the answer to it, right? The thing that makes this show mediocre isn't the fact that they're serializing the show. What makes the show mediocre is what they're serializing is boring.
Yeah,
I think so far. To me, I'm treating this like, the first, 2 episodes. I'm treating it. We're still in the first act of the story here. I don't think anything's really happened yet, and I haven't watched beyond episode 2, so I'll just go ahead and put that on the table. But it feels like this is starting to set us up to a particular point, and there are some shows out there, and we've seen them, where they go all the way to the wall from the get of go, where you really go like, man, if they would have just kind of held back a little bit and let the story unfold, as opposed to just going, we may never get another chance, so kitchen sink. Those shows can really they can seem fun, but they can also be a problem too, because it's just like, boy, that escalated fast.
But you have to judge a show differently than you judge a movie or a book, because you bought the movie, you got your ticket. Sometimes people are known to get up and walk out of a movie, but the thing is, a movie can start slow because they know they've got you for a little while. A book, once you bought the book, if the first 2 chapters are kind of building to something, They don't necessarily have to keep you hooked, but a show, man, you turn in and you watch one episode, you watch 2 episodes, you feel like it's not going anywhere, you might not watch episode 3. So you got to have something.
Now, this is true.
You got to have something there in the beginning to get you going. Maybe a Netflix show that's designed, all dumped at once, designed to be binged, can get away with some lulls, but especially broadcasts where you can't expect people to necessarily remember every detail from week to week, because not everybody's like us, man.
Right.
A lot of people have other things going on in their lives that demand equal attention to the shows, unlike us, where the shows are,
it's all our life.
Yeah,
No.
I take extreme notes.
But here's the
But
thing.
seriously, man, you can't have a slow burn with the show unless it's an intriguing slow burn. You've got to pique some curiosity every episode, or you've got to give some spectacle every episode. You got to give me something that says, you know what, I'm glad I watched this.
And you're not wrong. I don't argue that point, but I think we are in an interesting time within the history of television that we've never been to before. And to your point, is we have had the the Netflix where Stranger Things drops and everybody wants to bang that out in under a weekend, right? Because if you don't, you're not on the train. And I think network television, to an extent, wants to have that kind of, sort of power to where we have that, that flow. But obviously they can't. They're very constricted by what they can do. And yet they want to try to bring that to the actual week-to-week television, which they've got to, figure out a way that they can kind of get in the middle of it to where they can kind of do that sort of thing to where you keep us on every single week. And a great example of that from years ago was obviously 24. 24 ended every single episode with you gripping your seat going, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what they do next week.
And they don't do that here.
That first season, there was also a mountain lion at one point. The mountain lion was the big.
And not everything. Hey, you had to put through 24 hours worth of television. Not everything.
I'm all for it. If they threw a mountain lion into the middle of one of these episodes, I'd be into it.
Totally
Honestly, they could have a helicopter piloted by a mountain lion on Gotham, and I wouldn't blink.
But yeah, like when you get to like season 2, season 3
here.
of like 24, those get really good. But the thing is that I think we're at a time right now where TV is very much transitioning. 10 years ago, you would not have had a show like Gotham that continues on this straightforward path the entire time like it's doing. You just wouldn't have that show because you couldn't sell that to people. People are watching television far differently than they ever have previously in the past.
Well, I'm glad you like it, Adam, because I think our show's best when we have a little diversity.
And honestly, I got to the end of the second episode, and I was just like, I'm not like 1,000% sold, but I like it enough to see where this season will go. And
so my question to you then is, Adam, are you going to continue watching the show even though we're not going to watch it for the show?
Yeah, I probably will. I may, now that I think there's 5 or 6 episodes out now, I'll probably watch those and then kind of bank the rest and then just kind of, hit them up one after the other because frankly, as we've kind of discovered over the last couple of years, I think TV works pretty well that way for me, unless it's something that's like super water cooler, kind of like your Game of Thrones, where if like you haven't watched it, everybody at the office is going to screw it up for you or something.
Now,
right.
I've got a question, and I'm just curious. I'm not going to argue with you or disagree with what your answer is. I just want to hear what your answer is. What are other superhero shows or comic book source material shows on television that you think are not as good as this? Because I know there's some that you don't like. I can only think of 2, and one of them I'm pretty sure you don't watch. And I'm just talking about like this most current season.
Well, I haven't watched any of the because The Flash just started up again not too long ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that in a little, so I can't speak. I can't speak to anything that's new. And I'll be honest with you, I got off of the Gotham train, and I never really, and much to the chagrin of Dr. Dan Do, I never really. There's a handful of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes I enjoy, but I just and you guys know this. It's that nerd sort of thing of like, God, I really don't want to get onto this unless I'm watching the whole thing. And God knows I don't want to go through 2 seasons of garbage.
I'm just curious. Do you think there's a chance Flash could be less interesting than this?
Probably not. But I mean, again, that leans a little bit more comic book. And again, this is super early into this thing as well. Yeah. And if you'd have showed me the first 2 episodes alone of The Flash, I'd be a little bit iffy. But
no, you wouldn't.
Maybe
no, you would
not. Not as much as
the first 2 episodes of The Flash are great.
Not as much as this one, but it would be still kind of like I don't know how long they can sustain this sort of thing. But this is more of a like we're in uncharted territory, really.
We were falling all over ourselves trying to ring the bell of how great the Flash was that first
because
season.
we weren't getting anything that was of that
Do we have a consensus that this is probably better than Inhumans?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
I'll agree with that one.
I enjoyed this more than Inhumans, but I'll probably Inhumans started to get better, and I'll probably wrap that once that wraps up. I'll probably bang through the rest of those episodes too, just on account of I'd like to see what they do with it, and I hope things get better. But I think a lot of these, I'll say this, a lot of these TV shows need to really know, hey, man, you got to get it out of the gate. And I think they actually realized that with the Inhumans later on from what, some interviews have kind of said. If they've sat back and been like, we rushed this. This was a screw up on our part. This could have been a lot better, and we messed up. So I think you need to learn to say, hey, we need to make the best show that we can and not necessarily meet a production date.
Sean, where do you think this stacks up against Riverdale?
I still think Riverdale's the worst show we've watched on this show, but this is this isn't this is a bad show, but this isn't something where like I just hate it. I don't like this show, but I don't hate it like I hate Riverdale.
But that's the thing too. I kind of liked Riverdale, and yet I have not gone back to see any of the episodes. So it shows you how much of a grip it actually had. You know what I mean?
Riverdale had a couple of good musical numbers. This show could use some musical numbers.
The two things I've hated the most since we've started this show that we've ever had to review are Riverdale and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. And I can't stand the cartoons, but the cartoons just feel like a waste of time. Where the Riverdale and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are an affront to my senses.
What about how do you think the production design on this show stacks up to the production design on, I don't know, something like Outcast?
The production design on Outcast was
beautiful, man. I can't even pretend to not be just blown away by the production design on Outcast. I love that show.
Well, here's the secret: is that they did it right because they got the guy who was the production designer on Winter's Bone. And Winter's Bone is gorgeous and beautiful in its production design, and so therefore Outcast is also. It was a guy who knows, okay, this is the sensibility, this is what this is going to look like, and he's true to himself every step of the way. Whereas with this show, this is, hey, comic books are fun.
Yeah, I think it's the same guy that did the production design for Generation X that we watched.
So there's a lot of just black in the background and nothing else.
And that goes on forever.
The big twist is they're going to bring in Max Headroom for the season finale.
They should. This show could use Max Headroom because that guy's awesome. Matt, whatever his name is, Frewer.
Yeah. It's either Frewer or Fewer. I can't quite remember.
He's not German.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. They should bring him in. I think he'd be a great Cameron Hodge.
Oh yeah, I like this Cameron Hodge idea, which means it probably won't happen, but I like it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But, I don't know, man. Should I expose myself to get chopped off, get my head chopped off by the listeners? But I'm going to say 3 episodes into Walking Dead this season, and it's not any better than this.
Well, I think that I don't think that that's you're taking a big leap there because I stopped watching Walking Dead around the time of just the end of the Governor story arc, and because it was just becoming the same thing, and that's what everyone is saying now.
I was out mid-season too, so
I was a pretty devoted watcher. I mean, this is the first season that I really haven't found anything to enjoy yet, but that's not what we're talking about.
They just need they need new blood in there is what it feels like to me.
Yep, man. They need to. Whoever directed that Stephen King's It movie that they just made, bring him in.
Those guys are going to be busy.
Yes, I would think.
I'll tell you who'd be really good if they could get him. That Darabont guy would be really good for Walking Dead.
There's this Frank Darabont character. Well, as we wind down our program here, we have to ask ourselves one of the most important questions anyone can ask themselves is does this television program relate to our good old friend Sylvester Stallone?
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. If you don't know Sharon Gless by name alone, it means that you're not old. She was on a show when I was a kid called Cagney and Lacey, where Sharon Gless played the role of Christine Cagney, and her partner were tough lady detectives that would solve crimes each week. And it wasn't exploitative or titillating, and it was a groundbreaking show at the time. It was also, as an 8-year-old Sean can attest to, incredibly boring. That doesn't mean I don't like Sharon Gless. Quite the opposite, actually. As she got older, she became the tough old broad type character actor, and it's helpful to think of her as the female equivalent to a Robert Loggia or a Fred Ward. On this show, where every attractive person stares at their shoes and talk in a whisper, she's a breath of fresh air on this show. This time, she's the tough old grandmother to the main Strucker children, and I almost expect to see her in future episodes smoking a cigar and firing a minigun. When she was younger, she did time doing guest spots on network shows like Ironsides, Adam 12, and The Rockford Files. And one of those shows was Kojak, and we've spoken about Kojak before on the Stallone Connection because it was one of Stallone's earlier roles, because if you were a working actor in the 70s, you were working on Kojak. Now, let me ask you both a question. Have either of you ever heard the name Joni Lee Penn?
Can I say that I have?
That's weird, because in 1990, she was sentenced to 6 years for breaking into Sharon Gless's home with a shotgun and barricading herself into a standoff with police. Now, why did this happen to Sharon Gless? Because the 30-year-old Penn wanted to sexually assault her and then commit suicide in front of her, which sounds like the premise to a pretty good Katherine Heigl rom-com. Title: I'll have what she's having. I know it's horrible when these things happen, but Hollywood has done something so that people don't get stalked anymore by hiring actors no one would ever care about, like the cast of The Gifted. So good job by them. And there you have it, Thunderbird and Sage, this week's Stallone Connection. And now, in preparation for next week's review of Justice League, I present to you the following. Number 1, it's bad, but not as bad as I thought it would be. Number 2, it's an ugly, complicated mess, but I still kind of like it. 3, besides Wonder Woman, I don't care about any of these people. Now, fellas, let's review The Gifted.
All right, here on Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own little rating system. It's called the Robin rating system. I don't know why it just escaped like 150 some odd episodes, and all of a sudden my brain goes, what's going on now?
It's Robin.
Robin episodes. Bruce, where, if you'd like to find out what that is, go to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Bruce, what is your Robin rating for the first 2 episodes of The Gifted?
As unimpressed as I was with this show, people might be surprised that I'm not giving it a Jason Todd. But it didn't outright offend me. It didn't make me bitter. It didn't make me angry. It didn't even make me miserable. It was just kind of like watching golf. It just means you lost the remote control or something. It was just boring. It underachieved. I'm giving it a Stephanie Brown because that's kind of what I feel is appropriate for it. There are definitely worse things that we've seen here. So I'm going to give it the good old lukewarm, boring old Stephanie Brown.
All right. Sean, what do you got?
I am giving it a Jason Todd, but I'm giving it Jason Todd for the exact reasons that I said earlier. Like, I want to give it a Stephanie Brown because it's more tepid and mediocre, like the show is. But it's a Jason Todd because it is mediocre and tepid. They take no chances. They take no risks. It's with characters that kind of, sort of, already, maybe. And it's boring. That's the main thing. It's boring, and it's not fun, and it's ugly. And so it's a Jason Todd for me.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go Damian Wayne on here, just kind of right in the middle. Like I said, I'm not super it's early. It's early in the game, and maybe by the end of the year show and everything, I may have a different rating because we can always go around and change those at the end of the year.
And if you waste that on The Gifted, man, I'm gonna laugh.
You can do it for several things. You don't have to limit it to just one film. You can do it on any of them that you want.
We make our own rules, Leslie.
Yeah, I'm not beholden to any of that garbage. I make the rules around here, doggone it. So yeah, I'm just gonna go Damian Wayne on this. I will watch some more of it. Hopefully it'll catch on. Hopefully it'll make it a little bit better. But if it doesn't, I won't watch it. Like I said, I dug Riverdale a heck of a lot more than Sean did, but I never watched beyond the episodes that we had to for the show. So that's got to tell you something. It is what it is, everybody. But I do want to do this real quick because we got an email here at the 11th hour. So
wow.
I figure we ought to go ahead and read that. So it just gets on this week's show. What do you say?
Bale's here.
And this one is simply entitled, Thanks. Hey, fellas, executive producer Robert M. Barney here. You can call me Rob, unless, of course, Sean has another nickname up his sleeve. Anything, Sean? What do you got?
Barney Miller.
I said Sean.
Gumball.
Gumball.
Ooh, I like that.
Gumball. Gumball it is. It's fun because it's like, I don't know why, but it is. Anywho, I've been listening for a good long while, but have never sent you any communication. I'll be getting to iTunes next, but I have no Apple products, so I don't get there much. Wanted to say thanks for all you do. You make my nights at work bearable. Attach your photos of me as young Gay Blade, Dolly Parton, Ghost Pirate before it was cool. And Buddy the Elf and Heat Miser. I'm the heart of your demographic, and I love you guys, so keep up doing what you're doing. Burnin' Hades, Rob Barney, or as he will be known from this point on, Gumball.
Thanks, Gumball.
That is it, everybody. Let's close up the old HMP mailbag.
Bale's here.
And as always, if you'd like to send us an email, do that at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. Or you could just be like our friend Gumball here and go down to patreon.com/HMP. Help support this show. Get yourself a pre-show, post-show, special shows, and all that kind of jazz. And, of course, voting rights for the upcoming, the double header we got coming up and not too awful long. Speaking of not too awful long, it's been a long time since you've been places, Sean, but where could if you were on the internet, where might people find you?
At Twitter, at Hero Movie Sean.
And Bruce, I hear you do a couple of things on the internet. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, you can find me.
Man, I'm still in promotion mode for Nerd Spawn Genesis, man. It's available on Amazon. It's a great, fantastic superhero adventure featuring Adam, Sean, and Bruce. Chock full of laughs and references to nerd culture stuff. You get to meet Constantine, and that's spelled T-E-E-N, and his Eldritch skateboard. You get to learn the secret origin of the first Nerd Spawn, Lil Still. Honestly, you can't go wrong for $2.99 for the ebook, free to Kindle Unlimited subscribers. Read the first 3 chapters for free with the Look Inside feature. Please check it out. Otherwise, you're missing some great stuff.
I almost freaked out because I commented there was on the Facebook page for Birth Movies Death, there was a thing about Batman, and I made a comment about how Affleck probably should have had his own Batman thing first, and somebody said, I agree with this 100%, but they also should have had Little Steel. I about had a heart attack. Because it's and there's a guy I actually met, a listener who I met at Dragon Con last year while me and Matt were just walking around, and it made us feel like rock stars. We were like, what in the world? That was pretty sweet. But, anyways,
that's the guy that needs to read Nerd Spawn Genesis.
Those are the people that need to read that. And come on, if you don't get scared by reading the Constantine, kind of doing his summoning and whatnot, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's frightening.
But it's his fake English accent that's the most frightening.
Right, it gets put off. He's from Fort Mill. That's great. And of course, my other podcast, the Film Find at filmfind.com, new release reviews every single week. We had a double episode this week because we'd missed a week. So, even when we miss, we get down and still give you even more, man. So don't worry about that. And of course, Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern at nerdtalknow.com, we do a live show where I think this week we're doing some of a Make Me Laugh challenge. And you guys know I don't laugh at nothing. So we'll see how that goes. And, of course, Still Preacher Podcast is out there and all that other kind of good stuff, man. So thank you guys so much. Next week, what's happening next week? Is it anything that's of note at all? Would anyone even care?
Punisher drops.
No, yes, that's right. Punisher drops.
It's going to be a crowded weekend.
There's a DC fan by going, hey, dude, that stinks. So, yes, we will be covering the new Justice League movie next week. So we'll see what happens, man. Half a Zack Snyder film, half a Whedon film. Who knows, man? Who's to say? But I will say this. I almost forgot this as a plug. Bruce and I are actually going to be on another podcast.
On November 17th or so, right?
Yeah.
Man, that is going to be a busy week.
Yeah, this Friday, man, Bruce and I are going to be on Current Geek. So check that out, man. Subscribe to that and everything. Should be a good, fun time, I believe. So check that out.
Looking forward to chatting with Scott Johnson.
Some good gentlemen over there, I'll tell you that much.
Very cool.
Links in the show notes. I'll put those in the show notes for you guys. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for the Justice League. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty. You need it.